Hello, AP Government class. This is Mr. French, and today I'm going to talk about the first three articles of the U.S. Constitution. I'm going to skip over the preamble. The preamble is some nice language. Watch the Schoolhouse Rock video on the preamble. But to me, the more important part of the U.S. Constitution are the articles themselves. The first three articles set up the three branches of government. So, Article 1 is all about the legislative branch, Congress, and it's by far the longest article because the founders really wanted Congress to be the main force of government, the main body of government when it came to the federal government. So, Section 1 just basically creates the bicameral Congress consisting of two chambers, the Senate and the House. Section 2 is all about the House of Representatives, how it's different than the Senate, right? You only have to be 25 to be in the House of Representatives. You only have had to have been a citizen of the United States for 7 years. So, again, it kind of creates the qualifications to be a member of the House of Representatives. You have to live in the state where you represent. Um, Talks about if someone from the House of Representatives retires or passes away, it's up to the governor of the state to appoint a new member of the House of Representatives. And then it talks about how you have a Speaker of the House, and the House of Representatives has the power of impeachment. So basically, they can indict a president or other member of the executive branch, and then it's up to the Senate to remove them. Next, you have Section 3, which is all about the Senate. So, again, you have to be 30 years old to be in the Senate. Your term in office is 6 years, not 2 years. Every state gets two senators. So, that's all set up in Section 3. Talks about some of their unique powers. So, again, they have the power to try all impeachments. So, that's next. We have Section 4, which basically sets up the idea that it's up to the states to decide the elections for members of Congress. Section 5 talks about the quorum. So you need a certain amount of people, you need a majority of people in the House and the Senate before they can conduct any business. They kind of conduct their own affairs, so they create their own rules for punishing people. Sometimes you hear that a member of Congress got censured by Congress, so they punish their own members in each chamber of Congress. They keep a journal, so these meetings are for public viewing, so they're not closed behind secret doors. Section 6, we want these people to get paid. We don't want just rich people to be members of Congress. So it's really important that they get compensated for their service. Section 7 is kind of interesting. It's the idea that this is how bills get created. If it has something to do with money, it starts in the House, right? Because they have the power of the purse. It talks about the whole process that bills get voted on and passed with a simple majority vote. Talks about how the president can veto those laws, and then those laws can be overturned with a two-thirds vote. Section 8 are the enumerated powers. So these are all the things that Congress can do. It can create money, it can tax. These are all the things that the federal Congress can do. So there's 18 clauses there. So Article 1, Section 8 is really important because that's all the enumerated powers. Um, Clause 18 is oftentimes known as the elastic clause or the necessary and proper clause. We'll talk more about that when we talk about federalism. Section 9, these are all the things Congress can't do. So this is kind of like a mini Bill of Rights. So there's no bill of attainders. Congress can't write a law to arrest somebody. They can't suspend the writ of habeas corpus unless it's an emergency in case of a rebellion. But people need to be able to go through some sort of trial before they are put in jail. So these are some of the things that Congress can't do. It's like a mini Bill of Rights. You can't get in trouble for something That was not a law when you committed the offense, no ex post facto laws. So these are all the things that Congress cannot do. Section 10 are the things the states can't do. So we want to make sure states don't enter into treaties that would really create problems for the foreign policy of the country. States can't create tariffs between other states. So again, these are the things that the states can't do. Article 2 is all about the executive branch. So section 1 of Article 2 talks about how the president gets elected. So that's where the electoral college is. So again, section 1 is basically, and also how the president is qualified. So again, they have to be 35 years old. They have to be a natural born citizen. More about what that means when we talk about the executive branch. So section 1 is about the qualifications and how the president gets elected. Section 2 talks about the powers of the president, so they're commander in chief. Um, they can enter into treaties, but the Senate needs to approve of those treaties with a 2/3 vote. They can appoint people. So that's all the powers of the president. Section 3 talks about the State of the Union address. And then lastly, section 4 is about impeachment. How do you get rid of a president who is abusing their power in office? Article 3, that's all about the judicial branch. So again, section 1 talks about the idea that the judicial branch will be made up of a Supreme Court plus lower courts. So Congress has the ability to create additional courts beyond the Supreme Court. The only court actually talked about in Article 3 is the Supreme Court, but it's up to Congress to create those other courts. Also, if you are a member of the federal courts, if you're a judge on one of those courts, you serve for life. And that's talked about in section 1. It was all about jurisdiction. So this is the idea of when can the federal courts hear certain cases. We'll talk more about jurisdiction when we get into the judicial branch. Section 3 is all about treason. So there's actually this criminal statute in the Constitution. So that is what section 3 is about. All right, so that was just a little overview of what Articles 1, 2, and 3 are about in the US Constitution. Article 1, by far the longest one, is all about Congress, right? The legislative branch. Article 2, about the executive branch, the president, but also vice president and all those bureaucracies within the executive branch. And Article 3 is all about the judicial branch, right? Think courts, think Supreme Court, appellate courts, and trial courts. So again, that's a little bit about the first 3 articles of the U.S. Constitution.